with some of the themes I developed yesterday because today is a special day. And I'll tell you why. We'll go to investing.com and hopefully it will support what I detected early this morning, because if any of you recall, a couple of days ago, maybe it might have been a week ago, I said, I presented a slide deck where I said, true or false, which one of these is a fake out? I don't know if any of you remembered that day. Well, if you do, now's the time where my assessment, let's put it that way, my analysis has now shifted into the driver's seat. I was being correct. I was detecting. I said this is a fake move. This is a fake move. This is a real move, etc. Well, now we're getting to the real moves, and that is enormously beneficial. And the thesis that I was using was that the cryptos are now behaving as an anti-dollar. And that means, consequently, if the dollar starts to take a nosedive, which it is, because before the dollar was the flight to safety, and I said false breakout, false move, do not trust it, do not trade on that theme. That was my opinion. You can have your own, but based on my experience and my analysis, it was a false breakout. And now we're seeing reality creep to the fore where we're not getting the false moves. And that means that the stock market is dropping and the dollar is dropping along with it. Now, cryptocurrencies aren't doing that much right now. However, they did have a little bit of a nice bounce past couple of hours. And if the trend that I cover today remains in place, and I see no reason why it would change, well, there is a reason that would be basically an attack, but we'll discuss that in a little bit. I see no reason why it would change. The US dollar index strongly suggests that Bitcoin could catch a serious bid to the upside, because the US dollar index is dropping out of a long-term saucer pattern. I don't have the chart in front of me, but I've done the analysis and read the analysis. Long-term saucer pattern, and it has a long way to go down, a long way. And according to what I've read and the analysis of the Fed and a couple of other situations, and especially what I showed you the other day with the 1988 Economist magazine cover, this is all somewhat part of the plan. And if that's the case, then cryptocurrencies could absorb the fleeing money from the value of the DXY. And the DXY is euro heavy, Japan heavy, but nonetheless, it's a worldwide metric, and believe it or not, far greater volumes of currency would be pouring into the crypto market than are currency units coming from the fiat world. It's hard to conceive that, but that's actually probably on the money, unless you throw in these crazy coins like Patcoin and all that. And I don't even consider those. Why BTC capturing some of the money flow compared to ETH? I mean, ETH will well grab a fair amount, but BTC is slightly, and you know what, I should check it today, but BTC has slightly been recapturing over ETH, more market share, and Bitcoin is now adapting. It hasn't been adapting for a long time. And as all of you know, I am no fan of Bitcoin anymore at all. However, I have to acknowledge the role that it plays. It is still the most popular currency pair. It has some of the most connected. Okay, this is showing Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin to fiat traded volume is going up, which is great. But let's see what Bitcoin to alts are doing. That has been trending up too. It's also trending up. Okay, so this substantiates exactly what I was telling you about. That Bitcoin is still the name over Ethereum, even though we all know Ethereum is a better behaving currency by virtually every metric. But that may not sustain because the Lightning Network segmented witness and a couple of other features that may be coming onto Bitcoin. I still am not a favor of Bitcoin. I don't like Lightning Network at all. However, once it begins to lower the fees dramatically, which is already on deck, once it begins to become transactionally efficient again, and Lightning Network could make it significantly so, even though I don't like the principle of it, I don't like anything about it, Bitcoin could advance significantly price-wise. And while we, in the crypto space, generally do not like the idea of centralization, the opposing side, the governments, the banks, even a lot of industry, prefers centralization. They want somebody they can pick up the phone to. They want to be able to control. They want to be able to herd us. We don't want that. However, we've got to acknowledge the force exists and that there will be a segment of the population that adheres to it. In fact, most of the population adheres to it. Most of the population absolutely loves being corralled and doing what everybody else does. Crypto people, fortunately, which is why I fit in, I think, quite well, have their own opinion and don't necessarily want to be corralled and want things distributed and that kind of thing. But I'm getting a little esoteric. The bottom line is Bitcoin is going to see a lot of the benefit, no doubt about it, in my opinion. And that's actually showing what's happening right now. But if we're going to take a look at what's going on, the dead cat bounce that I talked about yesterday has turned out well. That's not the. Let's look at the indices. This is the futures. We don't want those. Yeah. All right. So it's all the same thing basically. The dead cat bounce is just that. It's hanging. The markets are hanging on by a thread. And the U.S. dollar index has taken a pretty big hit. That's a fairly significant hit in the currency world. And that is probably going to continue significantly. My reading now, and based on my big picture analysis, strongly suggests that unless we get an absolute crater of the stock market between here and March, what are we at? Dow, S&P, cut by half. Well, at some point they're going to have to do that, Bill. A very good question. They're going to have to engage in that. Now, Steam is very close to launching their conversion. They're very close to launching it. Dash has very strong conversions. They're just not in the United States as much. Obviously, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum all convert. Bitcoin Cash all convert fairly easily. LightPay is a step in the right direction. The answer to it is I think that's coming on board. I have an idea in my head of how all this could be done instantly without banking approval. We would be using the banking system, but we would be skirting around their approval. I get the impression not a lot of people are inclined to take that risk, but I think it's worthwhile. So the long and short of it is, yes, there will be increasingly fiat conversions, but really, you know what the goal is, Bill? The goal is to do away with fiat conversions. In fact, I'm talking a little bit about how that could be done today, and some of it's coming online, to a certain aspect, because we don't need fiat. One of the big issues with cryptos that almost nobody talks about routinely, I talk about it all the time. Especially if you live in Puerto Rico and you're familiar with what's going on in Puerto Rico, you realize how critical this is. Cryptos disappear when the power disappears. They're just done. They're done. Fiat currency and cash, well, credit cards and debit cards also disappear. So, that let's make sure we have a level playing field here. But cash, it is, Bill, but it's not stopping the growth. And in Asia, if you're in Asia or you're traveling around in Europe, there are Bitcoin ATMs or there were Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dash, whatever ATMs all over the place. It's a U.S.-centric issue, Bill. It's a U.S.-centric issue because the United States is the most authoritarian, the most brutal financial dictator, not the most, right in the top 5 around the world. It's one of the worst. And I'm taking off to Europe. I'll be going to Qatar, and then I'll be going into Eastern Europe for a couple of weeks. I'll still be doing my presentation. I'll miss a day here and there, but basically I'll still be doing my presentation and I'll be there. It would be far easier to do business in cryptocurrency over there than it would be over here. I could go back and forth from national currencies with cryptocurrencies, no problem. If I sign on to a computer, FYI, if I sign on to my computer, and of course I will, while I'm over there, guess what? I'm not blocked with ICOs. I'm not blocked signing up at Bitfinex. I'm not blocked at OKX. I'm not blocked at BitMEX. I'm not blocked at most of the exchanges because I'm in a free environment. The United States is completely restricted. It has the FATCA, it has the FINRA, it has the KYC, AML laws, all this absolute nonsense. I mean, whose money is it? Your money. Nobody should be able to tell you or me what we can do with it. So to answer your question, Bill, it's a U.S.-centric issue. We'll have to conquer it. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but I have some ideas on it. And but in a bigger picture, there are so many exchanges now where others can go from a national currency. Sure, others can go from a national currency directly into cryptocurrencies that we can accept a flood, which is what we've already done. We've already accepted a flood. We banged on $1 trillion, which didn't mean we got $1 trillion in. I don't want anybody to look at it that way. It meant that we got sufficient flows that, Once you're educated and you're awakened to the reality, no, we're not in a free society at all. And that's why it cracks me up when people who, generally they really don't know what they're talking about say, well, look at what free market capitalism has done. It's ruined this, it's ruined that. I said, who's got free market capitalism? We haven't had free market capitalism ever since the National Bank was created. Once you do that, you're right in the communist socialist framework. It's one of the first things you must do, control the currency. So I don't want to go too far off base here. All I'm saying is the thesis that I expressed a couple of days ago, if anybody remembers it, is now beginning to play out. And that means big things for us, big things. If you buy into the thesis, and I'm going to bolster today. So let's go ahead and dive into what I'm talking about, right? And this is going to come down to some specific coin projects. And as I love to do, I will start out high and narrow down. So here's what I was talking about yesterday. We went over the Fed coin, which is going to play into this big. It's going to play into, and it won't necessarily be called Fed coin. In fact, they may even take over Bitcoin completely or something. But it's the concept. It's the concept. As Brock was talking about, is it really going to be called Fed coin? No, it may be, it may not be, and probably won't. It's the concept. The Economist 1988 cover, hopefully you all remember how shocking that was, how it looked like they were already announcing